Good evening, folks. Welcome along to a Rotary in Scotland initiative, which is being undertaken with folk from the care sector. And there's some people along here tonight who will be presenting in person, but they've got some other material. There's a video along the way. Just two quick things. In a moment, there will be the magic button pressed to mute all the mics, and the evening is being recorded, which is what we've done in the past, but it enables this Zoom meeting and the experiences that will come through to be shared by others who, for whatever reason, aren't here tonight, but can go back and view the other links. So really, we're going to keep within an hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to get going. And the first guest I'd like to bring in is Don Williamson, who's the Chief Executive of Shared Care Scotland. And he's got a few things he is going to introduce tonight. And over to you, Don.
The theme this evening is unpaid carers and access to breaks from caring. And by the end of our session this evening, I hope that people will have a better insight into the importance of breaks for caring. We'll also have shared some examples of the different and sometimes creative ways that carers can access breaks. And we're going to be highlighting in particular our Respitality initiative. Now, Karen Martin was due to join us this evening and speak to you. Karen is a carer for her husband, and she's also the mental health development coordinator with the Carers Trust in Scotland. And Karen was going to give you, I guess, a first-hand perspective on breaks and the importance of breaks, and also share some recent research that she's been involved with, looking at the impact of caring on mental health. Karen was last Thursday off taking one of her Respitality breaks with her husband in a hotel in Dumfries, when her husband took seriously ill and had to be rushed into hospital. And Karen was keen that I sort of shared this information with you, because it really is a real illustration of the unpredictability of life as a carer. Her husband is still quite poorly, I'm afraid, and Karen is now signed off work so that she can be with them. What Karen did say, though, and was anxious to pass on, was that she got some fantastic support from the hotel staff where they were staying, who were absolutely magnificent and were there to give her some practical and emotional support at what was a really anxious time. So I guess I just wanted to take this opportunity, David, just to send our best wishes to Karen, because I know that she'll be picking up on this video at a later stage. Okay, so let's start with a quick explanation of what we actually mean by unpaid caring. So an unpaid carer is a person of any age who provides unpaid help and support to someone who cannot manage without that carer's help. And this would include people with support needs due to disability, due to illness or long-term condition, due to some age-related ill health or frailty, perhaps due to problems with alcohol or drug-related illnesses, or, as I say, due to poor mental health. So yeah, the first question is, what percentage of our population are unpaid carers? And the answer to that is 15.4%. So it's recent data from the Scottish Government suggests that we have around about 840,000 people in Scotland who are, I guess, sort of regarded as unpaid carers. So that's between 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 of the population. And the level of unpaid caring during the pandemic is estimated to have increased to about 1 million people. Now, according to national census data, and of course we're just waiting for some new data to be come forward from the most recent census, but according to census information that we have, the number of carers in Scotland and indeed across the UK is not actually going up by that much, certainly not as much as we might have expected. But what we are finding is that the intensity of caring is increasing. So linked to that, of the 840,000 carers that we have in Scotland, what percentage of carers are caring in excess of 50 hours a week? And the answer to that is almost a third, 27% are caring in excess of 50 hours per week. And that's quite extraordinary, really, when you think about it, because that's well beyond a full-time job. Or indeed across the UK, increases in people living with age-related conditions such as dementia. We would certainly expect over time to see more families taking on some level of caring responsibility. And there are less men caring than women, but this changes with age and it tends to balance out in late middle age. And there's a much higher proportion of carers living in areas experiencing poverty and multiple deprivation than you would find in more affluent areas. So next question, how many carers are under 18 years of age? And the answer to that is, the true answer to that is it's actually very difficult to get an accurate figure. I guess the official estimates are somewhere in the region of 30,000, but research from the Carers Trust would suggest that actually it's much likely to be much closer to 100,000 young people under the age of 18 who find themselves with caring responsibilities at home. And we do know of children as young as 5 years of age having to undertake caring responsibilities for their parents or perhaps for a brother or sister. Now, we don't want to paint a picture that caring is all bad. Where caring is properly supported and where carers feel valued and heard, then it can be an incredibly positive and life-enhancing experience. So the final question in this little quiz is, what is the estimated financial value of unpaid care in Scotland? So if carers were to down tools tomorrow, what would it cost the Scottish Government, if you like, to replace that care? And the answer is about £14 billion. So that is the value of the level of unpaid care that carers provide in Scotland at the moment. And what's interesting about that figure is that it compares exactly with how much the Scottish Government spends on running the National Health Service in Scotland, which is also £14 billion. So, clearly it's in all our interest to do what we can to support carers to make sure that they are in sustainable caring relationships. So there you go, just a few sort of facts and figures to give you a picture of what's the extent of caring in Scotland. Now, carers were particularly badly impacted by COVID. Many had to isolate or shield to protect the people they were caring for. In fact, many carers still find themselves in that position, that they are, incredibly nervous and concerned about venturing out at the moment. Many carers lost access to vital support services, including access to daycare provision, which of course would have provided, those vital breaks from caring. So consequently, what we've seen is a very significant increase in carers reporting poor mental health due to feeling more isolated and unsupported. So giving carers access to breaks, or better access to breaks, is now an even bigger priority than it was pre-pandemic. And just before Christmas, the government published its latest national carer strategy, and access to breaks and improvement in short breaks was one of the key priorities within that strategy. And going further than that, the government is also bringing in new legislation in Scotland, here in Scotland, to give carers a legal right to have sufficient breaks from caring, which is a really significant, important milestone in the kind of journey to strengthening carers' rights. But if this new right is to be effective, we do have to make sure that carers can access the breaks that work for them. And this involves really rethinking about how we do things. we know there's real pressure on public finances at the moment, so we've got to look at all kinds of different ways that breaks can be provided. And really what we're looking at is trying to create a much more mixed marketplace of provision that combines what you might refer to as more traditional forms of day service and residential care with other more personalised opportunities for carers to be able to have a break. So our ideal short breaks marketplace, if you could imagine that, would be contain a range of services in different settings. Some of those services would be available at home, some in the local community, some would be available during the day, some at night, some at weekends, and some during the holiday periods. So, essentially what we're saying is where caring is concerned and where breaks are concerned, one size can't fit all. So we do need people to have that choice and flexibility. And traditionally, respite care has meant a break in a care home or a nursing home in a more kind of institutional type setting. But increasingly, we are seeing breaks take place in a whole variety of different ways and in different settings. And, you can see just a few examples listed here. And in Scotland, we talk about self-directed support. And this is an approach that gives carers and supported people who receive social care support from their local authority, it gives them a legal right to direct their package of support in a way that works for them. So that certainly, theoretically, they have that flexibility and choice to be able to direct the package of support that they receive in a way that achieves the outcomes that they want. And it isn't just about services. As we discovered during COVID, often carers can achieve a break in lots of creative ways with the help of sometimes quite small amounts of funding. So what you see here are examples of how carers have used small grants that has been available through one of our grant making programs to buy a range of things that have in turn supported a break at home. And that ranges from supporting hobbies and interests such as gardening, music or model making, to therapies, meditation, gym memberships, book clubs, magazine subscriptions. There are so many different ways that people were able to create a little time for themselves. Or as someone described it to me as pockets of respite, just a little time out from their caring responsibility. So sometimes it isn't about services in the kind of usual sense, but it is about just looking at how carers can get a bit more control and be able to I suppose plan or design breaks that meet their particular needs. So just in summary, a short break can be anything that gives a carer a break from their everyday caring routine. It's about encouraging and supporting carers to have some me time, to look after their own health and well-being, which in turn we hope will help to sustain a healthy caring relationship. And I think, this is perhaps best illustrated in pictures rather than words. And I've just got a couple of photos to show you, which are from last year's Short Breaks Fund projects. And I think, more than I can describe, they perhaps illustrate what having a break is about. So it's about having fun. It's about enjoying the company of others. It's about doing things. It's about trying some new things. It's about having time out, perhaps as a family, making some new memories. Sometimes it's about being adventurous, and sometimes it's just about having fun and being silly. And when we're looking for ways of introducing more opportunities into the short breaks marketplace to help create more choice, more variety, I think it's important that we try and look outside the box to see who else is out there that might have something to contribute. And I guess this is where we came across this idea of Respitality as being something different, a different way that we can help carers to access breaks. So On that note, I'm delighted to hand over to Kerry, who's our Respitality manager in Scotland, and Anson, who's one of our business supporters. And I'm going to let Kerry tell you, and Anson tell you all about Respitality.
So yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming along tonight. I am Kerry Donachie. I'm the Respitality manager. Our initiative is part of Shared Care Scotland, so I work alongside Dawn. And basically, Respitality is a really straightforward concept. What we essentially do is link Scottish businesses within the leisure, recreation and hospitality sectors with unpaid carers who need a break. That's as simple as it is, but the benefits are humongous. And I'll go into that in just a wee minute. As Don was saying before we came along, this concept, it actually originates in America. There's a carer in America by the name of Vicky Pepper. She cares for her daughter who has cerebral palsy, and she had a bit of a light bulb moment where she thought her local hotels are busy, but they're not 100% full. They've got empty rooms, but they've still got overheads to pay. So why don't we ask them if unpaid carers like us can go and stay in these empty rooms free of charge, and it'll give us a break from our caring role. And that's what she'd done, and she'd done that in a very simple, small scale, and it worked great. And she was actually still operating that right up until COVID. So when we came across this concept, probably going back a good 10, 15 years, Don can correct me if that's wrong, we decided to pilot Respitality in 2014 in Fife, and then officially launch in 2015. What we're already seeing over the years that there's lots of various other sort of Respitality and Respitality-esque models operating all around the globe. I would say that we're probably one of the kind of most innovative in leading Respitality models that are out there. And we try to regularly share our learning with our global networks just to encourage more to pop up, because we absolutely love what it does. And like I say, it's such a simple concept, but it has such great value to everyone involved. So since we've launched in 2015, we've been really lucky in the support that we've received from the hospitality sector. Over 400 businesses have supported us. And the combined value of the breaks that they donate free of charge have been estimated to be in the region of almost £500,000. And that means that we've been able to support over 4,000 unpaid carers to take a short break through Respitality in the past 7 years, going on 8. And this success that we have is what makes us one of the leading social tourism initiatives in Scotland. And what social tourism is, if anyone's not too sure what that is, sometimes it gets called inclusive tourism. What it is essentially is businesses are trying to create an environment where everyone feels welcome and included, and that they have a great experience without any barriers that they maybe would have in normal circumstances to access that business's premises or the services that they provide. And then what this naturally does is it provides a really positive ripple effect within our communities. It just gives that really feel-good factor, and our tourism industry becomes a real force for good as a result of taking part in initiatives like Respitality. And we see that through Respitality, the way that carers seem to get so much out of it. Again, what Dawn was saying earlier about the fact that carers are really highly prone to social isolation. These types of breaks are so socially inclusive that it lowers that isolation rate. The financial worries that a carer might have about taking a break are massively lowered as well, because the breaks that are provided from the tourism industry are provided free of charge. And some of these breaks, some of them can be very small ranging in terms of maybe £20 tickets to a theatre night out, to lodges for a week and a half that are in excess of over £1,000. So there's a lot of financial elements that are able to be taken away, and therefore the strain is taken away from carers around that. Also, what is great about Respitality is that we are organising the breaks on behalf of the carers with thanks to our local delivery partners. So we work with local carers organisations who have got the relationships with the carers themselves. and they best match them to the breaks that are available that have been donated. And again, what we sometimes hear from carers is that as much as they know how important short breaks are for them, on a list of priorities that they've got, they tend to put it really low down because naturally and understandably they're very much focused on the person that they care for and other elements within their life as well. So we're able to try and, by us organising the break on behalf of the carer, it really enables them to prioritise themselves and therefore get that much needed break. Let me just pop on to the next slide. So like Dawn, I love to paint a picture with pictures, essentially. So in America, when, like I say, when the Respitality concept was born, it was purely hotel breaks that Vicky very much focused on, which was great. That worked really well for the carers that she was supporting. When we launched in Scotland, we decided to widen the net with that because what we appreciated was that not one size necessarily fits all, and that hotel breaks might not actually be suitable for a carer who maybe just needs an hour out here and there, or it would maybe just be too stressful to go far away from home and things like that too. So we do offer things like hotel breaks and overnight stays, which is one of our most popular breaks on offer. But what we also do is offer various other breaks that, as you can see from the pictures, are a lot of fun. So carers are welcome to go on breaks by themselves, or they can go along with family, friends, and the cared for person as well if they wish to. So we keep it really flexible, again, just to make it as person-centred as we possibly can. But there's the pictures I've got up here are just a few examples of the types of Respitality breaks we've seen over the years. So we've had carers go along to the zoo for the day, away to adventure parks, tickets to football matches, gym passes. You'll see a picture there of a father and son on a Segway tour, which got rave reviews. We also found some really creative breaks coming out during COVID, which was quite interesting because obviously the hospitality sector had to really shut down over that period. But what we then moved to was a more of a sort of virtual and online presence, just to try and help carers get a little bit of a break from routine. And we saw various different breaks coming through that. So we had like virtual tours of museums. We even had online whiskey cocktail making classes, where we had a couple of whiskey distilleries send out a sort of whiskey making box out to each carer in their home, and then they would log in on Zoom and they would all make the whiskey cocktails and have a laugh with each other and have a quiz. And I think one of the sessions went over by about an hour and a half because they were just having so much fun, and that's what it's all about. But not only are these breaks fun, they also create the opportunity for carers to make long-lasting memories, which of course really naturally massively benefits their health and well-being as well. So how the Rotary can help with Respitality, because we are doing great, but we of course want to keep growing and welcome any sort of support that we can get. If you have a business, you are more than welcome to consider donating breaks to us. We're always open to that. If you know anyone that has a business, please tell them about us. I've popped up the social media handles up there and the website link and things too, but I'll pop my email address and number in the chat box after I've finished this presentation, so please feel free to make a note of it. And also, if you've got a skill that you think would come in handy to support the initiatives, such as IT or legal knowledge or anything like that that you think would come in handy, please speak to us and see how you could come along and support us and help us continue to grow. So I thought this would be a really nice sort of stopgap here for me to introduce the lovely Anson Bartlett. Anson and his wife Jenny have become Respitality donors just recently in the last year. And I'll let Anson tell you a little bit more about his story and how they've supported Respitality. And I'll just stop talking now and stop sharing my screen. But thanks for listening.
Thanks, Kerry. Yeah, I mean, that last picture was a picture of our place. We've got a small B&B and some holiday cottages up near Inverary. We bought it in May 21, just at the end of lockdown. And we've been kind of bumbling along in the dark. Shall we say, just, we're pretty new to the industry, the hospitality industry, and the cottages needed a bit of work and investment. So we've been doing that for the last sort of, year and a half. But we basically had 6 cottages up and running last year. And early last year, Jenny and I decided, or we talked about it and said, what can we do? We were involved when we lived outside of Scotland with some charity work a little bit. And we said, well, what can we do? And, well, obviously we can give up the cottages for people that, could do with a break. So we decided to give, basically en masse every cottage. So last year we had 6 cottages available. This year it's going to be 7. And we just blocked off a week, the first week of October. And we thought, okay, well, it's not really up to us to, decide who comes along. We got in contact with them, with Kerry, and just said, look, here are the sizes of the places. Here's the capacity. Please, make use of them. So I guess to cut a long story short, we went back and forth, and Kerry got a list of carers together. Generally families of all different shapes and sizes, and they came along and stayed with us for a week in October. We didn't want to put pressure on anyone. If people wanted to mingle, they could. So we did a little welcome thing in the main house. So I had some nibbles and some drinks, and some people came and some people didn't, and that was all fine. And then we just made ourselves available for the carers as well. If anything that we could help, i.e. runs into Inverary, which is like 4 miles away, if they want to do a little bit of shopping, we just tried to be available for them. And yeah, I'd say overall, it was quite successful. Everybody enjoyed themselves. Is that fair enough, Kerry?
Yeah, I think Anson's totally underselling his and Jenny's generosity with that as well, because what they also done was put food in everybody's cupboards, and it was very much in sort of exclusive Respitality week. And I think what made it so special was the fact that the carers were all there, although they were coming from different parts of the country. So we had some coming from Edinburgh, some from Falkirk, I think, as well. So they didn't all know each other necessarily, if any of them did at all. And I think what was really special about that was the fact that they got to know each other, even though they all come from different walks of life. There was something that bonded them together. And we got some really nice feedback from a carer who went away with her daughter to stay in one of the cottages, and they care for their other child, who they decided the dad would stay at home with the child so that the mother and daughter could have a bit of time to themselves, and because the daughter was also a young carer, and they'd noticed a massive change in the young daughter, the daughter / the young carer, just been able to spend some time with her mum in such a beautiful setting and do all the sort of touristy things like visit the Inverary jail and things like that, and they just had a fantastic time together. So sorry, that's my son running in there. So yeah, thank you very much. Anson, are you able to tell us a little bit about why you felt it benefited you getting involved? Just you want to do something for the community, or?
No, it was generally just to give a little bit back. Like I said, Jenny and I did, just did a little bit of stuff. When we lived abroad, and we've got the cottages, and we've got some carers, unpaid carers in our family, extended family as well. So we know the value of it, and yes, it's basically we want to be as open and friendly as possible. So carers can bring their pets, whatever size of group, we'll try and accommodate them. So yeah, it was a win-win.
Thanks so much, Anson. Do we hand back to yourself, David?
You do.
Or is it to you, Don? Yeah.
So this is the bit when I say thanks to Don, thanks to Kerry, thanks to Anson for taking us through the different experiences that Respitality makes and offers. And obviously our thoughts and prayers are with Karen and her husband for speedy recovery. So tonight, like the other nights, it's an opportunity to hear, to listen, to learn. So this is a heads up. If you're ready, it's an opportunity maybe to seek some clarification or a question. So great diversity we've heard tonight, great challenges, great opportunities, and particularly, quite rightly put, what can Rotary do? With all our resources and abilities and contacts and networks, what can we do? Anybody got the first question or comment they'd like to make?
Yeah, Don, sorry, David, I've got a couple of questions, two of the same question actually, and they came from two different people, and it's for you, Don and Kerry. Mm-hmm. What arrangements are in place for the person, the cared for person, if they don't go on the Respitality break and their carers have gone? So what arrangements do you actually make for that cared for person?
Mm-hmm. Kerry, do you want to pick this one up?
Yeah, sure. So like I said earlier, we work with local carer organisations on the ground, and that mainly is because they already have a pre-existing relationship with the carers and other elements of their life. So, you know, sort of general emotional support, financial support, that type of thing. So it made sense for us that when we began Respitality, that we actually worked closely with our local carer organisations that we respect and trust, because there was no point reinventing the wheel and then trying to begin new relationships and rapport with carers when they've already got that support system set up. So basically Respitality is just one of many options that are available to carers in various parts of the country. So when carer centres are looking at short break options for carers, they will look at the whole picture in terms of what type of break is right for them, what time of year, and also look at replacement care options if the cared for person isn't going to go either. And sometimes it's a case of chicken or egg, whether it's the carer break identification comes first and then they look at replacement care. Sometimes it comes the other way around. Sometimes there'll be maybe the cared for person is booked in for respite care at a certain time, and then the carer will try and work their break around that time as well. So yeah, it basically comes down to the local carer organisation support, that they'll put that in place for them to ensure that the break suits them best.
Okay, that's
People
great.
might be surprised to hear that there are a lot of situations where the carer and the person that they care for want to take the break together. That's their preferred way of having a break. And you know, we still encounter people in social work who find that very surprising because they assume that it is a break from the caring responsibility. But actually, sometimes what people want is a break from the caring routine, you know, is to get out of the house and maybe take a wee holiday together or have a weekend away together. But in order for that to happen, they might need a little bit of help and support to arrange it. They might need to find somewhere that's got accessible accommodation so that they're not worried about, you know, the person that they're caring for. And in some cases, it might be a case of some help to maybe buy a little bit of care support at the place that they're staying, you know, just so they can get a little bit of help in the evening or in the morning, you know, just to get people up or to bed at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think it is this sort of personalization. It's just finding the kind of break that works for the people concerned.
Okay. Thanks. I think on the same sort of question, but I think you probably answered this now, is the question was, how do you receive your referrals and do you have a reach out service? I think you may have answered that, Don and Kerry.
Yeah, Kerry, I'll let you.
Yeah, so carers can self-refer themselves in, and if they come to us, what we do is we just identify whether there's a local Respitality partner available for them. The way that Respitality works is we're a social franchise. So what that essentially means is that on a national scale, we have developed this model and we obviously monitor it for quality assurance and things like that. But what we do is we hand that model down to the local carer organisations so that they can bend, mould it and shape it to what works best for their sort of internal structures and also the demographic of the carers that they work with as well. Like Dawn was saying there, that you meet one carer and you meet another carer and their needs can be completely different. And that's sort of the beauty of being able to offer a different catalogue of short break options. So what carers can do is they can either come to us and we will refer them into whatever local authority area they live in. If there's Respitality in that area, we'll connect them up with that. If they don't have that, we would encourage them to go and speak to their local carers organisation to see what other short breaks are available in that area. And what did you, sorry, I didn't know what reach out service meant. Is that similar to the referral process?
I don't know, Narek, what did you mean?
Thanks, Joe. I'm approaching these questions with two hats, as a Rotarian and as a CEO of an organization that supports people with addiction problems. So I know that their families and friends are automatically and natural carers. And what is most of the time, those carers will not know about the existence of local carers organizations. So what I'm asking is, do these local organizations have a reach out service, which are, for example, embedded within the Job Center Plus or within the health system or within the justice system or within the addiction services that can promote the services that you are talking about? Having these services in place is great, and maybe having reach out service maybe inundate you with the capacity. On the other hand, how do you reach out to your service users, to your referrals? And the other point, I guess on a Rotary level, if we want to engage, we need to engage on the ground with this local caring organizations. So it will be really helpful to have a list of this local organizations circulated through Joe to all the 3 districts, because in a way, I want my mother club in Falkirk to engage with the local care organization, as well as I want the organization in Eyemouth to engage with the local carers and clubs in Inverness to engage. So it will not be feasible for them to go every time through any process or any support through a centralized system. And I guess your organization is a membership organization of this local caring organization. Is that right?
Yeah. Do you want me to come back on this, Kerry, and then you can, the bits I miss, you can.
I can fill in, yeah.
That's such a good question as well that you're asking there, and it's, I guess that it's quite a big answer to it, I suppose, in some ways. But you may be aware, throughout Scotland there is a network of carer organisations, and in some there'll be at least one carer focused organisation in each local authority, and in the larger local authority areas there'll be more than one. And what we do is through the social franchise, when we're looking at Respitality, is that we identify one of those organisations within a local authority, or they identify themselves to us, because it's entirely optional as to whether they want to be part of this initiative or not. And then what we do is we have an arrangement or an agreement with them to run Respitality in that local area, and that's why we did at one point consider whether we could run it on a national level, but we thought that is ridiculous, because actually it is about those local connections and relationships. And obviously local care centres have got a relationship not just with carers who are immediately sort of registered with their service, but they've got a responsibility to start to connect to other local organisations like addiction services to make sure that what they have to offer is known to those other services, support services. So there's no reason why those other services couldn't refer people in to the carer centre to access things like advice, information, and access to Respitality, where that is available. That's exactly how it should be happening. I guess we would have to think about each carer centre separately to know how effective those networks and how established those networks are in each local area. But you mentioned Falkirk as an example, so that is one of our Respitality delivery partners. That's certainly a well-networked service, and we tend to, when it comes to delivery partners, we do make it clear that this isn't a kind of exclusive provision just for people who are already registered with their centre, but it should be open to other people who might hear about Respitality and who sort of meet the eligibility. In other words, they're caring for somebody.
Thank
Does
you.
that help?
Yeah. Great, because that list, Don, would be very useful that the rec mentioned, because we'd also had another question: how do Rotary clubs identify which businesses in their own areas are taking part in Respitality? And I know when we started this sort of 18 months, a year or so ago, you were working on different areas doing the Respitality project. So if you could send that list through, then we can send that out to everybody that's been on the call tonight. That would be grateful. Or indeed, if you could send the web links just so that we could, send those out, that would be absolutely fantastic, Don.
Absolutely, and it's quite conveniently, there is a website that lists all of the carer centres in Scotland with contact details. So we've got that link for you. And we can also let you know which areas are running Respitality. It'd be a bit more challenging, I think, to tell you all the businesses that are involved in Respitality, Kerry, wouldn't it? But if
you can give us the areas, sorry, Kerry, if you can give us the areas, we kind of all know where we are. We know where the local areas are to us, so we can always then find out. It just narrows it down a little bit. Don, I think Nurek's got another question.
Well, I'll wait if somebody else has anything else, because I can be here talking all night. This is an amazing topic for me.
Thought you might enjoy it, District Governor-elect. I've got one other question, then I'll ask you, let you come back in, Nurek, if that's all right. Janine very kindly raised, are there any legal liabilities and insurance issues with regards to the Respitality scheme?
In terms of the business?
I'm not quite sure. Janine, do you want to ask?
Yeah, basically, if a business like the example you've given tonight, they're providing whatever it is, whether it's that holiday or that climbing wall experience or whatever, what happens as far as any specific insurance requirements or liabilities, and thinking particularly about Rotary clubs, are there any considerations they would need to think about as well?
I don't believe so. I mean, I think everybody would be covered by the business's normal insurance arrangements.
Yeah, all businesses have public liability insurance, so a public liability insurance covers, for anyone coming, really.
Thanks, Anson.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and just to add,
sorry,
like any
David.
instance, there'll always be a risk assessment to make certain everybody stays safe.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, Anne, I do apologise. It's just been pointed out you've had your hand up and I didn't spot you. Sorry, Anne, forgive me.
No, it's been covered. I was just going to say about the list of all the carer centres. I mean, Dawn has covered it, but I was just going to say, if all else failed, I'm sure Carer Scotland or somewhere like that could provide a list. But Dawn's covered it.
I think we've already got that on the session 2 was dealing with carer centres, if you recall, and for those on the call that were at that meeting, we've got that link, so we can redo that, and that can go out with the thank you for attending letter that's going to go out by email once this recording has been put onto YouTube as well, to give you the link for that. So we'll resend that out to everybody, so everybody's got that. David, you've got a question.
Yeah, it's quite a simple one. Is if you're in Dundee, how do you get to Inverary? Is there some sort of minibus you have, or do you rely on volunteers to take them there and bring them back, and the luggage and everything else, and wheelchairs? What's the practicality of that?
Again, it very much comes down to local carers organisations working with that carer to determine what exactly the needs are there. How do they get them from A to B? So it does vary. We don't have, I would love a Respitality tuk-tuk bus. That would be an absolutely, I would just tour Scotland and drive over and around. That would be great. But yeah, again, all the needs are very varying. So what we sometimes find is that the carers organisations will even look at additional funding options in terms of covering travelling costs and Some carers will have their own cars, so they'll get themselves there, or it'll very much. And the good, like I say, the carers organisations are brilliant in identifying what the needs are there, because there's no point sending somebody away on a break and it's going to become a stressful and more of a financial burden to them. So they work all those sort of kinks out as such. But yeah, they're all very different sort of cases of how they would do that. And I was going to say, actually, just when we were having some of those questions there, just to clarify, because I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear, was that we currently operate in terms of carers access and Respitality. We work with 22 local authority areas at the moment, and we try and build on that every year. We try and bring on at least 2 different areas on every year, so we can increase access of Respitality to carers across Scotland. The good news is for businesses and also Rotary partners is that you don't have to have Respitality in your area to engage in it as such. There's no limitation with that. So for example, we've had breaks from up in the Highlands, and we only just recently brought the Highlands on to deliver Respitality for carers, but businesses have been able to donate for years, breaks as such. So yeah.
Thanks,
But
Kerry.
yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Narek, you've waited patiently with your hand up.
Can wait another few minutes if you want.
No, you carry on.
Okay. Just again, having these 2 hats on my head, thinking about it from the business, from the addiction service, and from Rotary. Rotary clubs are quite good in sometimes raising funds. They might not have the aging the population is aging. Not necessarily everybody still have a business that can open it to your services. However, they're good in raising funds, and they might be interested in sponsoring a carer for one of this one of these breaks. So it might be also helpful for Rotary clubs, when that list of local services is circulated, to have also an estimation about the cost per break per person, because a club might say, I would like to sponsor 1 person to go for a break rather than being able to offer a service. So that's another way of doing it. The other thing that Rotary clubs do is a bit of promotion and a bit of raising profile and getting a credit. And, it's the nature of the business. And I think empowering carers to be part of that service user development and feedback. And I know that Joe was proposing something to do with the conference attendance and enabling clubs to understand, or districts to understand, the benefits of these participants to take part in such activities might help dramatically in convincing clubs to support you in any ways possible. The other side of my question is about the care center and the local care center. I've been in the business of addiction for the past 16 years in one local authority. I must say I don't know much about the care center in that local authority. So maybe because you are very busy and you don't need that level of marketing and popularity, but that also says that there will be lots of service users who don't know about the service. And in particular, this is the first time tonight I hear about the SDS. I never thought that a carer can have an SDS to support them in their decision making. So again, there are lots of things that we need to be educated about. And it will be very interesting to see how can you support a person with heroin addiction who's being cared by his or her daughter or son who is 12-year-old, to offer that person a respite, because who's going to take that place? Who's going to cover it?
Listen, I would be really interested to have a separate conversation with you about that, and if I can be any help, in terms of giving you the sort of perspective or the information that we have on things like self-directed support and access to support and services, and equally there'll be so much that we can learn from you as well. I'd be very happy to have that chat, so perhaps we could exchange contact and information.
I can do that quite easily.
Oh, you.
Let's do that. That'd be really interesting.
Sorry, I can do that quite easily. Don, it's a really good questions tonight for Don and Kerry, but I think there's a video that you need to show, isn't there?
A nice, it's quite a nice sort of illustration of
And
Respitality.
this was for young carers on a Respitality, which was quite poignant.
Yeah.
Young carers are going to St. Andrews. We're going to go to the beach and relax and have a little break. We're going to St. Andrews and we're going to get our own bedrooms. I'm most excited about going to the beach. I just can't wait to go to the St. Andrews. It's going to be a fun experience.
A young carer and a young adult carer is someone under the age of 25 who has a caring responsibility for someone in their family. They may have a chronic health condition, they may have mental health problems, and young carers and young adult carers might help to support them emotionally, physically or practically, or they may do all of those things.
Like you're helping your mum or dad, and if you go here you get to have lots of fun and get extra time off of helping and that.
It's to have a break from all the work we do because we're always helping and sometimes we don't get a lot of time to have fun. This is my time to have fun and have a break.
Breaks are so important for young carers because it gives young carers first and foremost the chance to be a child, to come out, to play, to have a break, to hang out with friends, to make new friends, and most importantly to have fun and have a bit of time that's just for them.
And my favourite part of the day was on the train and the beach.
What was your favourite thing you've done today?
Probably the aquarium, going to the gift shop. Like when we went onto the walk and seen the animals and the beach and stuff, that was an adventure and I just loved it so much. Normally if I go on any trip with young carers, I feel like I've made new memories with a lot of friends that I have at young carers. Can you hear me, Rebecca?
I love that little outtake at the end.
Yeah, she's a character. She's a real. She's going to be an actress one day, I'm telling you.
that break, it might not have been clear at the end, but that break was possible because of accommodation that was donated by St. Andrews Student Accommodation Service. So it would have been over the summer period, I think, Kerry, wasn't it, when the students weren't there? So they have all this accommodation, sitting available, so they were able to donate it, which allowed, a group break in this case.
Fantastic.
And it just shows that how important it is for young carers as well as adult carers to be able to have that break and just go and be kids for a while without any of the caring responsibilities. I'm conscious of the fact that time is marching on and we normally do these within the hour. So it's 19:58. So Don, Kerry, David, are we wrapping it up?
With a brief comment, which is my closing comment. This is tonight, but the earlier nights have all been about raising the profile, sharing information and signposting. And I think between a few of the earlier comments that sometimes you need to keep that information fresh and ensure that you just keep renewing the contacts who can receive it as well. That's always a challenge in the information age. But tonight was also about the direct contact and the direct sharing of time that Don, Kerry and Anson gave us. The videos tell their own stories. Again, thoughts and prayers with Karen for speedy recovery there. This issue is not going to go away, folks. It's an unmet need, and perhaps the opportunity to rise to the challenge is there in many forms. I'll borrow something Kerry said, diversity must be the key word. There's different ways to look for different solutions It doesn't call for megabucks. Small sums can make a big difference. And it's the enterprise and ingenuity that brings that together. So really, the closing remark is, let's see how we can keep in touch. This recording will be brought together. It will be put out on YouTube. But again, we can share other information within this as well, and just make certain everybody can easily find that list of carer centres across the country, for example. And it's there to be added to, it's there for local initiative. It's not a top-down, one-size-fits-all approach. So I'd like to say thank you for the time you've given tonight. Stay in touch. You've got good, committed, caring people everywhere. Let's see how we can support each other and support those who are doing an amazing job as unpaid carers.